The following story contains instances of violence, blood, and gore that may be too much for some beings to endure. Listener discretion is advised. This is Queer Goal, an anthology of short queer horror stories written and produced by me, Adriana Oister, pronouns she, her, and they, them, with various tales of horror, suspense, mystery, and science fiction. I, in the role of the narrator, will introduce you to a diverse set of characters, each of whom trapped in their own hellish landscapes and teeth-clenching nightmares. Lisa Burrow, pronouns she and her, is an average human being who lives a life full of extraordinary circumstances in which many of us would find impossible and even too frightening to endure. What is so frightening about her life, you may ask? On the outside, anyone who knows of Lisa is aware that she is a writer of facts, and just recently became a best-selling one at that. She lives in a deluxe apartment in Manhattan with the love of her life, a rather wealthy and beautiful businesswoman she met in a small town in the state of Maine during one of her work travels. What most do not know, however, is that the building in which they live in New York is not an ordinary one, and the woman who has stolen Lisa's heart is not even a human herself. But Lisa, who once years ago never believed in ghost stories and of those that go bump in the night, is going to discover that her atypical bliss is about to be threatened, and her girlfriend's life put in grave danger. I now present to you A Man's Guide to Your Girlfriend's Cycle. As soon as she aligned her blue eye to the peephole in the brown wooden door, Lisa wished that she pretended she wasn't home, that she ignored the hard knocks of knuckles and instead barricaded herself in their bedroom. But she didn't, and the man on the other side of the door knew that she knew he was there. She stood up straight and turned the bronze doorknob, pushing the door open. Nobody was there. She left it open for a moment longer before pulling it shut. An icy whisper blew across her shoulders. Chilled, dark-skinned hands flattened across them. The fingers curled into her muscles. Her breath hitched as she spun around, and a towering man erupted into a fit of laughter. On seeing the man, Lisa relaxed and rolled her eyes, placing a hand on her hip. The side of her mouth slanted into a smile. "Mr. Childs, what a pleasant surprise." The man prolonged his laughter, a low rumble that formed from the pit of his chest. He wore a floral purple suit coat over a black dress shirt with a matching pair of pants. His eyes were shielded by pink-lensed rounded glasses. The incandescent light in the room would gleam off his black polished shoes with each footstep he took around the lavish apartment, and bounced back into Lisa's eyes. "You and Thora have been living in this building now for almost a year, and we've hung out so many times, and you still insist on being so formal. It must be a big-shot writer temperament. You write a nonfiction piece on the history of inequality and disability, and when it lands on the New York Times bestseller list, you're suddenly more royalty than the rest of us. You know I just like teasing you, John, just as much as you like to mess with me, she said, tucking her thumbs through the belt loops of her jeans. Aren't bloodsuckers like you supposed to be invited in before just flying through? He walked along the border of their living room. His mouth made slight movements as small whispers slid through his lips. He eyed the paintings and picture frames hung on the walls before taking his bony fingers along the hardcover spines on the bookshelves. That's a myth. Lisa grinned. But clearly that one about counting is not. John considered the books he had been tapping and retracted his finger. The whispering stopped. Lisa suppressed a laugh. I know you got my text earlier. I can't go to the Yankees game and get drunk with you tonight. Thora needs me by her side for the next few days. And preferably sober. I won't be able to attend the game tonight either, he said, moving closer to Lisa. All jokes aside, I'm here for a serious matter, especially for you. Lisa's smile faded. What's wrong? What happened? I've been warning everyone in the building. I've received a tip from some colleagues that allegedly, he paused as he swallowed. A chaser is right now somewhere in Manhattan. Lisa stared into his protected eyes, her fingers playing with the pendant around her neck. It was made of pure silver, coin-shaped, and of European origin. Images of wolves and a family crest were etched into its surface. A chaser, she said. Is everyone in the building in danger? I don't believe so. This is a very particular chaser. They know what time of the month it happens to be, and we both know the only person in the city they'd be after during said time. Lisa's eyes narrowed. She's safe with me. I'll never let them get her. I know you'll protect her as well as any human in love could. She shook her head. I don't understand why a chaser would come to a place where there's only one. That hardly matters to a chaser when the payment and their hate for one is substantial, he said as he glanced outside the apartment's window. We're unsure of who the chaser is, or what they look like, or even if there is a chaser. I will be spending the night searching for them nonetheless. I believe it would be wise that you don't tell Thora about this. This night is going to be painful enough for her without the thought of a killer on her tail. It could be just a false alarm after all. This isn't exactly a time for your puns, she sighed. I hate hiding things from her, but I agree. My goal tonight, just like every night, is to keep her safe, comfortable, and make sure she knows she's loved, no matter what she changes into. How noble of you. Your aura right now is sickening with affection that's nauseating. Which reminds me, he pulled a book out of the inside of his coat, holding it out to Lisa with a face of twisted amusement. To end on a lighter note, I saw this recently in an old bookstore and thought of you. Lisa took it from him and read the title aloud. A Man's Guide to Your Girlfriend's Cycle. She glared at him as he was choking back laughter. You're so funny. Why do I even bother with you? Because I'm your best friend and your favorite neighbor, obviously. The front door opened seemingly by itself, and he retreated into the hallway. If anything off does happen, let me know. Give Thora my regards. He hesitated. His eyes crinkled. Furry! He was still laughing as Lisa watched him fade out of reality, disappearing in front of her eyes. The door slammed shut within inches of her face. "I hope he chokes himself on a Bloody Mary," she said, studying the cover of the worn book in her hands. She figured that something so sexist must have come out sometime in the 30s. She opened the book to the copyright page, correcting that the book came to existence in 1947. She made an annoyed sound as she sat down on the linen couch and flipped to the first page. It read, "Make sure that you and your girlfriend are aware of the timing of her cycle." Lisa thought about the calendar hanging on the wall in their kitchen, marked with notes of business meetings, birthdays of family and friends, reminders to call said family, and even the phases of the moon were illustrated on each date square. "I have to remember to call Mom before she gets upset again." Lisa flipped pages ahead in the book. "Your girlfriend may feel displeased with her body when it's her special time of the month. It's up to her man to take care of her and make sure she feels comfortable. Take control of any situation presented, whether it means offering her pleasure, engaging in thoughtful conversation, distancing yourself when asked, even taking control of the kitchen." Lisa closed the book and threw it on the end table. She debated if the wisest decision would be to go down to Thora's office herself and take a taxi cab with her home to make sure that the woman would be safe. Her contemplations were interrupted only when she heard the door swing open and closed. She beamed when she saw that it was her beautiful girlfriend, pulling off her leather work bag and caramel peacoat and hanging them on the nearby rack. "Hi, love, I'm home," Thora said, her midnight eyes illuminated when meeting Lisa's blue. Her lips, painted in pink lipstick, were curled into a strong smile, her teeth as radiant as the diamond earrings in her lobes. Lisa jumped off the couch and threw herself at the shorter woman, wrapping her arms around her curvy waist. Thora giggled as she felt Lisa's hands running down her light yellow dress towards the small of her back. Lisa inhaled the woman's memorable scent of exotic florals in a thriving woodland forest. "Thora, you're home early. I didn't even start dinner. Are you hungry? Are you in any pain? Should I get the Tylenol or the CBD?" Thora pulled back to meet Lisa in a kiss. "Darling, I've been living with this since I was 13. It's been 20 years now. I'm going to be fine." She left a kiss on Lisa's jawline, her fingers toying with the buttoned collar of her shirt. "You always take such great care of me, and I'm forever thankful that I have you." Her hands moved towards Lisa's silver necklace. She only touched the pendant for a quick moment before she yanked her pink-painted fingertips back. The pads of her fingers burned. "Hey, hey, hey," Lisa said, holding onto Thora's hands, raising them up to give them a soft kiss. "What did we say about touching the pendant and hurting yourself?" Lisa dropped them and turned her focus to Thora's shining brown hair, which at the moment was secured in a tight bun. Lisa worked her hands through it, pulling out the pins as Thora knowingly kissed her cheek. "Where's my wild girl?" Lisa said as she removed the final pin. The long hair flowed down past Thora's shoulders in elegant waves. "There she is! There's my wild girl!" Lisa giggled and kissed her forehead. Thora laughed. "I was going to say, before you interrupted with your cuteness, that you just need to make sure that you end the night in one piece." Lisa huffed, combing her fingers through Thora's locks, tucking the hair behind her ear. "I know you'll be okay, it's just that you worry." Thora pulled off her black high heels and left them by the door, her legs and feet still clad in tights. "I'm aware. Sometimes I don't know whether your profession is writer or worrier." I'm a firm believer that to love is to always worry. They go hand in hand. Thora hummed before she went up on her toes to lay a quick kiss on Lisa's nose. I worry about you too, she said. Lisa watched how Thora's hips swayed as she walked towards the small hallway leading deeper into their deluxe apartment. I'm already wiped from our meetings today. I'm going to take a shower before dinner. I'm feeling itchy. If you need me, let me know, Lisa said, watching her girlfriend enter their bedroom. Thora acknowledged the statement by blowing Lisa a kiss before she shut the door and disappeared inside. Lisa raised her hand, pretending to have caught the kiss, and pulled her hand to her chest. Damn, she was so gay for her. A few hours later, after a dinner of steak with a side of greens, although only Lisa ate the salad and Thora had eaten her multiple steak helpings raw, Thora sat on the couch changed into a pair of gray sweatpants with an oversized hoodie that pictured Ozzy Osbourne costumed as a hairy creature blazoned on the front. Her face was wiped clean of her luxurious makeup, and her jewelry had been taken off. She didn't bother keeping her bra on underneath. She was facing the television screen airing the 7 p.m. news, but her eyes looked over to glance at her lover. She could hear the fast-paced thumping of Lisa's heartbeat as she was rushing around the apartment. Okay, Lisa said, staring out the window into the cityscape and the darkening sky, pulling herself back and pushing the curtains closed. Every window is bolted shut. All curtains are closed. The door is locked. I'm sure that everyone in the building knows that tonight is a do not disturb us night, and I made sure that we are triple stocked in anything we may need. Darling, Thora called. Lisa's heart pounded more intensely when she heard the sophisticated and her most favorite of pet names escape from her girlfriend's mouth in such a worried manner. She leaned over the couch, seeing Thora wringing her hands. What do you need, sweetie? Pain pills, water, more food, ice pack, heating pad, your stretch mark cream. Thora reached her hand up to Lisa's shirt collar, tugging her down to meet her in a kiss. When their lips parted, Thora leaned her forehead into Lisa's cheek. Can you please just hold me? Hold you? Lisa nodded. I can definitely do that. She leaped over the couch and sat next to the woman, pulling her into her lap. Are you happy now? She said, planting kisses around Thora's face. She scrunched up her nose in a way that Lisa always found adorable and laughed. You always make me happy. Good, Lisa said, as Thora intertwined their fingers together. Lisa lifted their hands, Thora's left. Her heart fluttered when she pictured putting a ring on her fourth finger, which was longer than her middle. She squeezed Thora's hand affectionately. Thora searched Lisa's eyes. What's going on in that mind of yours? Lisa peppered light kisses along Thora's jawline. How I visited Maine for work and ended up winning the heart of the most beautiful, amazing woman ever. That's such a cliché. I expected better from a talented writer such as yourself, but I do love the sentiment. Thora's warm breath tickled Lisa's skin as she left a kiss and burrowed her face into the soft juncture between her shoulder and neck. After a comfortable moment of time, Lisa inhaled. Thora, she hummed in response. Do you really mean it? Thora blinked open her eyes, her hand rubbing Lisa's arm. Mean what? Are you truly happy with where your life is right now? You know, with being in New York, your job, living here, us? I'm literally still doing the same job for our company, except now I go to meetings in the city in person, and the ones back home on virtual. Living in New York has been remarkable. There's less fleas and ticks to deal with, too. But I do miss seeing my family every day and being around our estate. Your parents were definitely not happy with me for taking you away from them. Mom and Dad can whimper all they want. We're only a few states apart from each other. You took me here because I begged you to. But you know how close my family is. We've mostly always stayed together on the estate. It was safer that way. Being in a large city can be difficult for people like me, with my curse. She sat up. Not that I think you haven't been keeping me safe. And whenever we FaceTime with them, they still clearly adore you and trust you. She leaned in and pecked Lisa's lips. Good thing, too, because I plan on keeping you around for a long time. We'll visit them again soon, I promise, Lisa said. A flicker of hope sparked inside her. She kissed Thora on the corner of her mouth. Since you say you're happy, she ran a hand through her hair, searching for the right words. What would you think about us getting met? Thora's eyes widened. Her pupils dilated as she curled in on herself. A wave of pain resembling an electric current shot down her spine. She moaned in between taking sharp breaths. Lisa sat her back down beside her, uttering comforting words while rubbing her hand across her back, feeling an abnormal growth rolling underneath Thora's skin. When Thora uncurled herself, she grabbed for Lisa's hand. I'm sorry, darling. What were you trying to say? It's getting close, huh? I can hold it off. It seemed like whatever you wanted to say was important. Lisa squeezed her hand. I just wanted to say that I love you, and you know you shouldn't be holding anything off. It only makes you hurt more. I love you too, Thora said. And if you're sure that's all you wanted to say, do you mind if You don't even have to ask, sweetheart. Just do whatever makes you comfortable and what your body tells you. You're the absolute best. Remind me to give you a reward when this is over. Thora pressed one last kiss to Lisa's lips before pulling herself away, laying back against the couch with her eyes closed. She took a deep breath. Lisa continued to hold Thora's hand, the hold growing tighter between the two as Thora winced, reaching her other arm out, that hand clenching the couch's armrest. Lisa took a breath herself, her eyes moving across her girlfriend's body. Thora's skin bubbled, parts of the membrane poking forward as an unnatural entity slithered beneath. A deep growl rumbled from Thora's throat, follicles of hair sprouting out of her, patches of fur, thick and dark, grew across her body. It poked out of her pants and hoodie, growing towards her feet, arms, hands, and up past her chest to wrap around her neck, and crawled towards her light, pale face. Thora opened her mouth again to gasp, and two sharp canines thrusted themselves out. The human teeth that had been in their place flew down towards the carpet, attached to pinkish streams of spit. Her gums oozed blood as Lisa took her own sleeve and wiped her mouth of the excess dribble. There was a knock at the door. Lisa squeezed Thora's bristly hand tighter. "Don't worry," she said. "They'll go away." She kissed her forehead. "You're doing great." The being on the other side banged harder against the door. A voice called out to those inside. "Lisa, I know you're in there. Let me in." Lisa jumped. "Mom?" Thora's hair growth ceased before it could grow fully over her face. She snapped her dilated eyes over to Lisa. "What's your mom doing here?" Lisa raised up her hands in defense. "I have no idea, honestly. I didn't know she was coming." "Lisa, open the door!" "I don't understand how she got past the building staff. Everyone knows what tonight means for you." Thora's eyes glassed over. Her growling intensified. "Lisa, Ida can't see me like this. She can't find out about my curse. She hates me enough as it is. You need to get her to leave. It's too dangerous." Thora, she doesn't hate you. You two just haven't spent enough time together yet. But I'm afraid you aren't going to start getting buddy-buddy tonight. Lisa nodded towards the door. I'm coming, Mom. Just a minute, please. She stood up, helping Thora off the couch as her legs wobbled. She held her close as they walked down the small hallway towards their bedroom. I'm going to find out what she wants and get her to leave. Go into the bathroom and finish up with part 1, and I'll hurry up to be with you for part 2, okay? Thora's obsidian eyes flashed. Lisa Burrow, she's only here because you didn't call her again. So if you don't get your mother out of here immediately, you're going to be the one in the doghouse. A tear cascaded down Thora's cheek. Her furry hand came up and hovered over Lisa's pendant. I need you with me when I change. And I will be, sweetheart. Just give me some time. It's going to be okay. Just breathe. Please don't cry. You need your energy, she said, sitting Thora down on the side of the bathtub, kissing her on the cheek and closing the door. I'll be right back. Lisa rushed across the apartment to the front door, unbolted the lock, and yanked it open. She ran her hand through her shoulder-length light brown hair and beamed at the older woman at the door, who clutched a bulky leather bag protectively at her side. Mom, it's so nice to see you. What are you doing here? So unexpectedly. If you're so happy to see me, then why in the hell did it take you so long to answer the door? And while I'm at it, why does your doorman look like Herman Munster? The shorter salt and pepper-haired woman probed while hugging Lisa. He kept telling me I couldn't come up here. The nerve of that man, telling me I couldn't see my daughter. You shouldn't talk about Albert like that, Mom. He happens to be very courteous. And I do love seeing you. It's just that tonight is not a good night for a surprise visit. That's what he tried telling you. Ida ignored her. Where is that woman you're dating? Is she still here? Or did you break up with her finally? Her name is Thora Visage, Mom. And yes, we're still together and happily in love. Ida walked around the apartment and grimaced at any photos she saw of Thora. Lisa hastened to stay 1 foot ahead of her. If you're so happily in love, why hasn't the rich girl proposed to you yet? It's been 3 years now. Is metal fabrication not a booming business for her family as of late? Maybe she's jealous of you for being on the bestsellers list for 3 months straight, she said, pinching Lisa's cheek. Lisa held eye contact with her mother as she shuffled her foot to kick the human teeth under the couch. Mom, please don't talk bad about her. If you spent time with her, you'd adore her. Ida scowled. Her forehead wrinkles grew deeper. Well, if I'm supposed to spend more time with her, then why is she hiding from me? That's why I said now is not a good time. She doesn't feel well. Brash shouting, barely muffled by the walls, carried into the room and lingered. Lisa hugged herself. Her body grew heavy. Ida put a hand to her chest. What was that? It sounded like an animal. That's Thora. I've been trying to tell you that she's not feeling well, and as much as I love to have you visit, I really must ask that you leave so I can take care of her. Lisa placed a hand on her mother's shoulder as she delicately pushed her back to the front door. Her mother stopped. What's wrong with her? Screaming cut through the air. Lisa's hand came up to her chest, fingers toying around with the pendant. What's wrong with her? Sounds like she's being murdered. Lisa gulped, seeing out of the corner of her eye the book she had thrown on the end table that John had given her earlier. It's her time of the month? There was no way she was going to buy that, even though it wasn't a lie. Yet, Lisa watched her mother's expression change. That makes so much sense now. Your Aunt Nancy would get the worst cramps imaginable when it was her time of the month. She'd be in bed for a week straight, just groaning and crying. Yes, exactly. Thora's going through something similar right now. She also has a chronic condition that makes it much worse for her. She needs me. She doesn't need you. Ida walked around her towards the apartment's kitchen. What she needs is a good herb drink to soothe her insides. Don't worry, I'll make do with whatever you have. Hopefully she does some shopping with all that money she has. Mom, a drink is not going to work for her. Nonsense. If it worked for your aunt, it'll work for Miss CFO too. But Mom! Another piercing scream, followed by a groan. Now, if you love the girl so much, why are you just standing there yelling at me while she's crying in pain? Go to her! Lisa pulled her hair, her mouth snapping shut, before she pushed herself to run back into their bathroom, and locked the door. She stood breathless, turning her attention to her girlfriend. The clothes she had been wearing were lying on the blue tile flooring, ripped into small pieces like confetti. In the toilet was evidence that Thora had retched yellow phlegm and chunks of raw meat into the bowl, and a trail of it reached the edge of the bathtub in profuse pools. Lisa focused on Thora and found her propped up on all fours, her hands and feet swollen. Fur coated her entire body and her face. Her cracked pink fingernails and toenails leaked blood from underneath. Thora made eye contact with Lisa. A whimper amassed in her hairy throat. Tears pulled themselves down from her dark eyes and were absorbed by the fur. Lisa, her voice deeper, and her fangs now much longer. Is she gone? Lisa winced. Not exactly. She insisted on making you a herb drink for your period. Thora's body shook, her ears growing pointed as the tops stretched out, turning her ears sideways. I have to resist the curse. I'm too dangerous. You're both in danger. Lisa held Thora's long-haired face between her palms. Thora, you've been the love of my life for almost 3 years now. I know you're not a danger to anybody. My mom is not going to find out, and I'm going to protect you like I always do. She ran her hand through Thora's fur, from her back to her wide mane of hair. Nothing bad is going to happen. Lisa looked at the shower head, turning the nozzle beside her to warm. Water drizzled down onto Thora. I know this makes you feel at least a little better when you turn, and Mom won't be able to completely hear it over the water. Thora wailed, lunging up to wrap her arms securely around Lisa. Her thumb flicked at the silver band around her neck. You need to promise me that you'll keep that necklace on and never take it off, not even for a second. If your mom gets bit, make sure to tend to the wound as soon as possible with the contents of the jar in the first aid kit that I made for you. Lisa squeezed the wet fur underneath her fingers. You've been asking me to make that promise every month now since the day you gave it to me. I've never taken it off, and I'm not going to start now. Thora placed a fuzzy kiss on Lisa's neck, a warm fang brushing against her pulse. She tried to speak, but it came out as small continuous bursts of cracked speech. I love you. Lisa held the woman closer. I love you too. Moans turned into penetrating cries, rattling Lisa's eardrums. She held on tighter to Thora, whispering sweet comforts into widening ears. The words of consolation grew suppressed by the snapping and popping of bones under skin, muscle pulling over the bones as they took their new skeletal forms. The hands around Lisa gushed blood as the fingernails developed into sharp claws burrowing into Lisa's back. Lisa closed her eyes. The smell of tangy copper grew pungent among the sounds of bodily change and erratic movement under her hands. The screams grew into howls when Thora's face pulled itself out, more teeth clinking down on tile. Sharper fangs took their places in longer jaws. Lisa opened her eyes again when the agonizing sounds stopped, leaving only the drizzle of water plucking against the bottom of the bath. Her eyes drifted around to find crimson splattered across the walls, in the tub slinking with the water towards the drain, and even she was now soaked in her girlfriend's blood and hair. Her arms were still wrapped around a figure, but instead of a head so close to her shoulder, the side of her forehead was pressed against the clotted fur of a thick thigh. The room was heavy with the smell of wet dog. She let go, falling on the blue floor, also speckled in blood, and looked up at the 8-foot-tall creature that stood on its muscular long back legs in a hunched position, its arms stretched out and limp at the wrists. Lisa exhaled as she got to her feet, while the creature's shadowy eyes glared down at her. Its tail shifted side to side at a tentative pace. "Why, hello, my big bad wolf." Thora sat down like a canine, bending over and gliding her rough tongue over the side of Lisa's head. "Yes, I love you too," she laughed. "How are you feeling now?" Thora raised her snout, releasing a short cry while elevating her front right paw over Lisa's shoulder, the paw just as large as Lisa's skull. Lisa held onto the paw and glanced down at herself, stretching out the green fabric with rips and fur sticking to bloodstains. "I know you liked this Henley on me. When we go shopping again, I'm sure you'll buy me a few more. I'm hoping we can find a replacement for that Aussie hoodie too. It was very on brand for you." Lisa stared into her black eyes, which were now globes with specks of scattered glowing gold. "I can't believe that people say that your eyes are too horrible to look at. They're beautiful. You're beautiful, no matter what form you take." A small noise answered. "I'll definitely continue to shower you with compliments later. Now, let's get you cleaned up before Mom sees any blood." "Lisa!" Her mother banged against the door. "What's going on in there? The drink will be ready soon." Thora's eyes darted towards the door, pointing her snout in the air as she sniffed. She snarled. Lisa cursed herself for not also locking the bedroom door. "Thora is really not feeling great now, Mom. If you just leave the drink out, you can go home and I'll be out to give it to her." Lisa reached her arms up, Thora lowering herself so Lisa could place her hands on the sides of her head. "No, Thora, don't growl at Mom. She's not bad, for the most part." "I'm not leaving till I give it to her myself," Ida said. "Open the door and let me see what's going on." Lisa petted Thora. "I can't, Mom. Thora's sick. Please just go home." The lock on the door emitted a clicking sound, and in a few moments the door itself squeaked open as Ida stepped through. She carried in her hand a large stainless steel tumbler, the bag still at her side. "You know damn well, Lisa, that I can open a locked door. I taught you how to do it myself when you were little." Thora snarled at the woman. Lisa hugged her girlfriend's body. "Mom, it's not what it looks like. I can explain." Her mom's expression was blank. "Lisa, I already know what's going on. Just please let me help." Lisa's hands shook. "You know?" "Of course I know. I've known ever since you came home with that necklace around your neck. That pendant signifies that a beast has claimed you as their human." Lisa turned to Thora. She had only ever heard of the necklace being for protection. "Is that true?" Thora didn't answer, only placing a large paw in front of Lisa, blocking her from the other woman. "This concoction I've made for her is going to help the situation greatly. It's packed with plenty of herbs and natural ingredients, including a Conatumna pellis." "Wolfsbane?" Ida nodded. "You can't give that to Thora, Mom. It's poisonous to her." "It's not going to kill her." Ida took a step forward, flicking her wrist as the tumbler of contents splattered across Thora's fur. Thora belched out a high-pitched wail as smoke rose from her skin. She sidestepped her way to the wall on unsteady paws, knocking her body against it as she sunk in on herself. Her body was shaking. Ida pulled a handgun from her bag. "I'm the one that's going to kill her," she said, pointing the gun at Thora. "Thora!" Lisa wrapped her arms over as much of her transformed lover as possible, leaving kisses on her head. Thora didn't respond to her, and Lisa's eyes grew red and wet. Ida waved her other hand. "Now get out of the way, Lisa. I don't want to hit you." Lisa grunted, flinging herself up and wrapping her fingers around her mother's gun, tugging it in Ida's grip. "Lisa, what are you doing? Stop this!" "I can't believe it," Lisa said, fighting against her strong grip, fat tears rolling down her face. "You're the chaser!" "I didn't want you finding out this way, but I knew I had to act soon before you fell even deeper into that creature's dangerous spell. I couldn't bear you being with that burden of a creature any longer. She's been nothing but nice to you." Ida's other hand snapped up, squeezing around Lisa's neck. "It's the necklace, isn't it? That's turned you against me. She's charmed you somehow, taken over your mind." "No, Mom, I'm not against you, but please listen," Lisa said in between labored gulps. "The necklace is protection. You can't do anything to it. You can't take it off me. It only put me in danger. Can we please just talk instead of killing each other?" Ida considered her daughter's words, soon lessening her grip around Lisa's throat. "Thank you. Mom, Her mother tugged hard on the necklace, ripping it from her neck. The broken chain reattached itself in Ida's fist. Lisa wheezed, pushing her mother hard out of the bedroom doorway and into the hallway leading back towards the living room. She wiped her face, the tears blurring her vision. "Mom, I'm serious. Give that back. I promised Thora I'd never take it off." "She doesn't want you to take it off because it's dangerous, just like her." "Thora isn't dangerous, Mom. I love her, and she loves me." "You don't love her. You just think you do. She's no good for you. What life do you really think you can have with a thing like her?" "Stop saying that!" Lisa gritted her teeth and grabbed for the gun again. "You've always tried to break us up. I'm not going to let you kill her. Whether you like it or not, she's going to be your daughter-in-law. And if you care about me at all, you'll accept that, and you give me that necklace back now." Ida's face tensed. "I'm sorry about all of this, but it's for the good of you and all of us who are human." Ida kicked Lisa in the abdomen, sending her flying in front of the living room couch. Lisa sobbed, her arm squeezing her throbbing abdomen. "Can you please at least tell me why? Why all of this? You were a college professor. When you said you retired and found a hobby, this isn't what I had in mind. Monsters like your girlfriend and her family are dangerous. They're blights on our kind. They're incapable of love, especially to us. They only wish to feed on us. I know because I've done the research. I learned that they were real and that they're out there, and I'm going to do my part to get rid of them, starting with the one that's taken you, by putting a silver bullet in her brain." Lisa propped herself against the couch. "Mom, no, stop, please! I love her! She's not a monster!" Back on her four paws, Thora snarled, pushing her heavy body into the wall as she rushed towards the two women, sending picture frames and portraits and sculptures crashing to the floor. Her fur caked and clotted, burns blistered her skin, the gums of her teeth bright red as her mouth curled into a sharp snarl, exposing her fangs. She slowed. Her claws snagged against the carpeting of the floor as she crawled closer to Lisa's mother. "Thora, Mom, stop this, please! We can talk about it!" Her mother spun on her heels, pointing the gun at Thora's head. Her finger pressed on the trigger. "Thora, run!" Thora stayed still. The older woman pulled the trigger. Nothing. Lisa! Ida persistently pulled back the trigger. You did something to my gun! Of course, because everything is always my fault. Thora lunged, raising her paw and smacking the woman against the wall with a sickening thud. The force knocked Ida unconscious and broke the gun into pieces. The necklace fell onto the floor close by. Lisa sniveled as she stood up, taking light strides towards the scene. Sweat beaded down her forehead. She held out her hand close to Thora's mouth, kneeling next to her mother. Hot breath huffed into her palm. It's okay, Thora, I'm here. Just breathe, sweetheart. She checked Ida's pulse. Black eyes drilled into her. Once she confirmed her mother was still alive, she went to pick up her necklace. Thora growled. Easy, sweetie. Just breathe. When you get upset in this form, the curse clouds your mind. Thora's lips curled, flashing her blood-stained teeth again. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to put the necklace back on, then we'll take a time out, okay? She moved her hand on top of the necklace, raising it up in her shaking hand. The cord attached to the pendant was just sliding down over her head. Right when Thora jumped forward, her piercing fangs sunk into the flesh of Lisa's arm. Lisa screamed, shaking her arm to dislodge it from her girlfriend's jaws. Thora! Thora! She cried endlessly. Blood squirted from her arm down to the carpet. Thora let go, flinging Lisa's body down. She paused, watching her lover pull her bloody arm to her chest. Lisa's vision was blurry. Her body shivered. Sweat rolled down her skin. Eyes wet, her flushed face writhed in pain. A sharp hiss escaped through her teeth. She bent herself over and heaved on the floor. Thora backed up, her pointed ears drooping, and her black eyes glassed over. Lisa lifted her head up when she heard the whimpering and watched her girlfriend's tail wedge between her back legs. Thora, she said, winded. Sweetheart, it's okay. I'll be okay. She gestured to the pendant. I got it on in time. It's okay. There's no reason to be upset, she said as she bled out of her arm. Thora never took her eyes off the human as she walked over to her, cocking her head, remaining unsure. Lisa stretched her uninjured arm out, her hand patting the fur on Thora's head, convincing her lover to come closer. I know you can't help it. I know you didn't mean it. Thora leaned in, stuck out her tongue, and started to lick Lisa's deep red wound. The saliva burned on Lisa's skin before releasing a cooling sensation as Thora cleaned the wound and wiped away the blood as it clotted. When finished, Thora looked into Lisa's eyes, emitting another questioning whimper. Thank you. Your kisses always make me feel better. When I clean up, I'll put a bandage around it. She extended out her hand to scratch behind Thora's ear. I really am okay, I promise, she sniffed. This is a lot to process. I'm so sorry about all of this. Thora let out a small howl, placed her large paw on Lisa's back, and pressed Lisa's body into her furry chest. Lisa buried her face into the thick fur, feeling Thora's snout rest on the top of her head. After a few silenced moments, Lisa scratched Thora's ear. Who's my favorite girl? Who's my favorite girl? Thora blinked, before wagging her tail and licking Lisa across the face. "That's right, you are," Lisa said, placing a kiss on the tip of Thora's wet nose. The next morning, Lisa spoke on her cell phone, walking back and forth in front of the living room windows, sunlight beaming down on her and the blood-stained flooring. "Are you sure that she's not going to remember anything?" John chuckled. "I laid her down in her bedroom, did some cleaning around her home, and placed a little charm on her. When she wakes, she may call and tell you about a bizarre dream, but she won't know it was real. She won't even remember that she's a chaser. And even more so without the prejudice, she should be a little more accepting of Thora moving forward. Although I'm sure she'll still be difficult, unfortunately. Not much I can do about personality. Have you tried therapy? And are you sure that you didn't do anything more, like leave bite marks on her neck?" "Oh no, I was much too full already to overindulge." "What about the other tenants in the building? Are they okay?" "Every vampire, ghoul, ghost, demonic entity, sea creature, science experiment, and mad scientist has been accounted for, including one werewolf and one human. A few of us will come up sometime today to help you clean up. I imagine it's difficult for a human to get blood out of carpets and furniture." Lisa bit her tongue, smiling to herself. "Thank you so much. I owe you one. I would do anything for you and precious Thora. Your companionship means a lot to me. Now, speaking of, go and attend to the lovely young woman. She clearly has had quite a night. Oh, and before I go, Lisa, she's going to say yes." "And I call dibs on best man." He hung up, her phone beeping and returning to its home screen. Lisa sucked in a breath as she placed it into her pocket. For the second time in hours, her eyes locked on to the book still resting on the side table. She picked it up and walked back into their bedroom, knocking her knuckles against the doorframe of the dark room. On her side of the bed, Thora was underneath a mass of blankets, dressed in only a white tank top and underwear. A heating pad rested on her waist, and a cold, wet rag laid across her forehead. On her nightstand were bottles of Tylenol, CBD balm, stretch mark and burn creams, a mug of bone broth and chicken's blood, and a plate of raw bacon strips. She lifted her head up slightly from her pillow when she heard Lisa approach, and groaned in acknowledgement. Lisa placed the book on her nightstand before sitting down on her side of the bed, and slowly moved her legs onto the mattress, laying her back against the headboard. Thora reached a hand over, and Lisa accepted it as she intertwined their fingers. "While you were napping, I was doing damage control with John. The whole 'my mom came to kill my werewolf girlfriend' situation has been taken care of. Your parents also called. I told them that you had a rough night and that you'd call them back when you felt better. They give all their love to you." Thora gave a weak smile that only lasted a second. "You have to be so exhausted. Between what happened and watching me turn back and taking care of me, you haven't slept at all." Her voice was grimy, as she normally had a sore throat when she transitioned back. Her body always needed time to recover after such painful changes, and the wolfsbane didn't help matters. "I'll sleep when you're feeling better." Lisa leaned down and kissed Thora's cheek. "How's your arm? It doesn't hurt, does it?" Lisa glanced at the off-white bandage wrapped around her forearm. "My arm is okay because you made it better. And of course I was wearing the necklace, so I'm not cursed." She giggled to cut the tension. Thora didn't react. That's the first time I bit you. Not exactly. You've bitten me plenty of times before. Lisa smirked while rubbing her neck. I meant during my transition. It's the first time that I hurt you during my transition. I could have ripped your arm off. In that moment when you didn't have the necklace on, I could have cursed you. I could have killed you. I should have had better control of myself, but between the curse and the wolf's bane and knowing she was being horrible to you. Thora paused to take a breath. I made a promise to myself that I would never hurt you, and I broke it. I could have lost you. I could have lost you too. Lisa sighed. Please don't upset yourself about it, sweetheart. It was bound to happen sooner or later anyway, and we took every precaution necessary for when it did. I know you didn't mean it. She wiped her eyes. I should have told you from the beginning that they suspected a chaser in the area. I just didn't want to add more stress on you. I'm so sorry. She apologized once again. They laid in silence for a few minutes. Thora played with Lisa's hand, rubbing her thumb against her knuckles and raising them to her lips for kisses. She started to speak. When her first word cracked, she cleared her throat and attempted speech again. Darling, I need to tell you something important about the necklace. Sweetie, I'm sure it can wait until you're feeling better. Thora pulled on Lisa's hand. I don't want to wait, I want to tell you now. Lisa searched Thora's black eyes and nodded. She knew that when Thora wanted something, she wasn't going to take no for an answer. That necklace has been in my family for centuries. There are many of them, but each one is unique. I'm not the first werewolf to fall in love with a human, and I'm sure I won't be the last. As you know, these necklaces are charmed to protect the wearer from our curse. What I didn't tell you is that they're meant to be given in the event of a... She paused. Betrothal. Lisa's heart pressed hard against her chest. That's why your family kept giving me weird looks and asking me questions when I started wearing it. All 12 of your siblings still harass me about it. Thora attempted to raise herself up in a sitting position. She winced, a hiss escaping as Lisa helped her settle back down. That whole practice is from the days when you didn't even touch each other until marriage. I should have told you, but I loved you so much and we were getting so close and so physical in our relationship. I wanted to keep you protected, and this was the only way. So, technically, we've been engaged for well over 2 years now, she said, raising the pendant up to gaze down at it from a better angle, looking again at her girlfriend's family crest. And that I'm a claimed member of your family? I won't apologize about that last part. You are mine, and everyone needs to be made aware. She flashed her human teeth, her gums still red. But, in my family's eyes, it looks like we're stalling. Lisa swallowed the ball in her throat. Well, what if we really were engaged? Thora raised an eyebrow. What? I mean, you gave me the necklace. I'll go get you a ring. We can have the wedding at your family's estate. We'll invite all our family and friends, no matter who or what they are, and my mom may actually get along with everyone since she has a spell put on her. If you would want her there, of course. Then during our honeymoon, we can run around the woods and hold each other while we look up at the stars like we used to before we moved to New York. Lisa stopped when she noticed Thora's surprised expression. I'm sorry, I know that this isn't much of a proposal. I do want to give you a real, proper one. It's just that I've been thinking of marriage, and you said last night that you were happy with me and that you loved me, and when you just brought up the necklace, Next Friday night, Thora interrupted, and Lisa saw the tears building up in her eyes. I'll leave work early again, and that's the day where you can perform a marriage proposal with your human traditions. And although I will be happily anticipating finally being able to call you my fiancé, I will act surprised like I didn't know it was coming. So that's a yes? You do want to marry me? Of course I want to marry you. Just like my mother told me the other day. Any human that goes through the effort of happily cleaning up your blood and fur every month is a human that's worth keeping around for life. Just remember that the ring can't be made of silver. I'm aware, Lisa said, bending down over Thora's lips. But Thora turned her head away. I've been vomiting and bleeding. I mean, I puked too. Okay, fair. They kissed. I love you, you furball, Lisa said. Thora curled her fingers around Lisa's neck, deepening their kiss. I love you too, you furry. Lisa sat back up. I am not a furry. Thora rolled her eyes. Of course not, darling, she said with a wink. The word furry triggered a memory of John. Oh, that reminds me, she said as she grabbed the book and handed it to her soon-to-be wife. John dropped this off yesterday before you came home from work. He said he saw it in a bookstore and thought of me. Thora glided her fingers across the cover and binding of the book. She smiled at Lisa and giggled. In the literal sense, it seems sexist to me, but in the context of us, I find it cute. She flipped through the pages. Did you learn anything from it? Lisa grinned, fingers still clutching on to the silver pendant. I didn't read much of it, but I think I got it down. For the written version of the story you just heard and other Queer Goal originals, visit queergoalpodcast.com. The Queer Goal Podcast Anthology is an independent endeavor. If you enjoyed what you've heard, please consider leaving a review or rating and telling a fellow creature of the night about the show. Follow Queer Goal and me, Adriana Oister, Oister, on social media to stay up to date about the podcast and future projects. All links are in the show notes below, as well as other ways to support the show. Redundant on Queer Goal, but necessary nonetheless. May Lisa and Thora be the proof you need that love is not easy. In order for it to thrive, it needs empathy, communication, commitment, passion, and trust. Once it is fed such, love will always find a way to prevail and triumph. Until next time, thank you for listening.